I'm going to start this video off by talking about a topic that I've seen a little bit about, but not much, but it really applies to me, and that is maladaptive daydreaming. Up until, maybe 10 years ago, that was me. I would spend hours revising my past and imagining myself as far more successful and perfect than I actually was. And I did it so much that I actually kind of believed it, and it felt good. And I know that there was a good amount of dopamine and serotonin involved with it. And, it worked for me. And was it maladaptive? Yes, in the sense that I gave it a lot of time. And during that time, I wasn't doing anything else. I did it. I certainly daydreamed a lot as a kid. And, as a kid, my home life was pretty good. But outside of home, not so much. School and bullying and that sort of thing. And I compensated for it by living a life in my mind, which was really quite nice. When I was a kid, I daydreamed about being a heroic and powerful individual. Usually a starship captain like Captain Kirk, or, an explorer, usually science fiction related. I also would daydream about being the leader of a nation. Yeah, and it came out also in how I played with my friends. And as I look back on that, it just blows my mind that they would play these things with me and allow me to be the captain, or allow me to be the president, and they would be like the vice president or some other member of the cabinet. And looking back, that just kind of astounds me. Yeah. So what are some ways that it may not have been quite so maladaptive? Creativity. I dreamt up this entire mythology of what would have happened had the library in Alexandria, Egypt, not burned down, or what would have happened if the books that were there and the scrolls had been copied and were held outside of that library. Well, my mythology was that a number of people got together with this information, left the Mediterranean Sea, and found an island in the Atlantic, which I invented as the continent of Atlantis. And they lived there, and it was sort of a fantasy type thing where it was, medieval sort of culture with wizards, dragons, that type of thing. And then they modernized. They used the knowledge from the Library of Alexandria to become a modern society, and they left for the stars. And they found a planet around in the Alpha Centauri system, settled it, and became a galactic federation and I was a starship captain within that federation sometimes. Other times I was one of the philosophers in the College of Philosophy of that civilization. And yeah, this is stuff that I could still possibly write down into a book, because there were some amazing adventures, although a lot of it was copied from science fiction that I had seen, especially Star Trek. And there'd be copyright issues, I think, if I actually tried to write it into a book. Although, if I were to try to make it adhere to known laws of relativity and quantum physics, why, maybe it wouldn't be so much of a copy. But of course, when you do that, it gets pretty weird. It's kind of hard to make optimistic fiction when you really look into the deep nature of the universe. It wouldn't, that type of a civilization, I don't think would be at all like what we imagine civilization to be. And I maybe should look into that more. More recently, that daydream habit of mine has kind of fizzled out. And whereas I guess it's good in the way that maybe I'm more productive, but I don't know. I find it kind of sad, actually. And I'm really trying to rekindle it. Yeah. But what do I do with it now? Well, I guess now I am actually studying the mathematics and the physics in a lot more depth, because in some ways I want to make those daydreams come true. Studying that math and physics shows me more and more that no, the universe is just not set up for people like us to get in spaceships and go out into the galaxy. That's just not how space-time and quantum mechanics are structured. The very structure of space-time prohibits fast travel through the galaxy. I'd love to find a way around that. That's the ultimate goal of what I'm studying. So, I'll keep working on it. Well, what are some benefits of studying the math and the physics? Well, number one, it is a workout. It's exercise for my brain. It's cognitive heavy lifting. And it actually makes me better at my job, which is a cognitive job, as a physician. It doesn't give me actual medical knowledge, but it does sharpen my mind, and I can arrive at a diagnosis more quickly and more accurately. So it's beneficial in that way. It's also beneficial in that it opens up new truth spiritually. I've, on the spiritual side of things, a year ago I read a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, who uses quantum mechanics and quantum field theory to suggest that we can affect our fortune and our luck in life by using the quantum field to our advantage. Manifesting. We can bring about abundance, peace of mind, safety, flow through the quantum field and our interaction with it via our brains. So that, I guess, is another reason why I love to look deeply into physics and mathematics. Right now I am back to actual lectures on quantum field theory. I've been through the quantum field theory courses several times, and now I'm finally coming to terms with the mathematics enough that I can actually start to see how the properties of the maths really do describe physical things like quarks and mesons and hadrons, and that's the tough part. Those are the ones that mathematically are difficult to understand. Whereas electrons, positrons, and the electromagnetic field are somewhat easier, more approachable. So, today, what I daydream about is knowing this stuff very deeply and being able to explain it to others. And it's kind of ego-ish, there's ego in there because, I'm so smart that I can explain quantum field theory. Well, I think that daydreaming has a lot of ego in there. I have my spiritual means of kind of toning that down and sort of letting the ego go on idle and rest a little bit. Yeah, and I think that opens me to my higher self, to my spirit guides, and then I gain wisdom, knowledge, information that way. Yeah. But while I am daydreaming about, say, giving a lecture about quantum field theory and how it correlates with chaos theory, fractals, and dynamics, I imagine myself giving such a lecture or explaining it to somebody. And while I'm doing that, sometimes new ideas come up. And I pause and I think, hey, that might be something actually real that I can explore, So daydreaming, it's a double-edged sword, I dated a woman who would say to me, you are a dreamer, whereas I am a doer. And it felt like an insult. I'm got my head in the clouds, not getting anything done. Meanwhile, she is fixing up her house and doing work that makes money, and whereas I'm just la 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 daydreaming. That doesn't feel good. And yet, while I daydream, I do come up with ideas like some of those that I share on this channel. I guess my challenge right now is to get these things written down, get these things documented. I mean, one idea that I had a few years ago is that electrons are really not entirely fundamental, but in fact, they are a cooperative effort between gravity and photons, that the right action of gravity to quantize light rays into photons, and then those photons bounce around inside a gravitational bubble to create the mass that an electron has. Well, then I come across a video saying that there are some physicists that are writing about this and believe this. And it's like, ah, crap. I should have written that down and presented it earlier. And there are some other ideas that have appeared in the literature that I had thought of but didn't present, and now somebody else is presenting them. On the one hand, my ego says, oh, you should have been the one. On the other hand, I'm thinking, well, I guess maybe I'm on the right track with some of this stuff. You know, what was one of the other things? Oh, the idea that the Big Bang didn't only create our universe, but also a mirror universe where the antimatter all is. And that's why we don't have much antimatter in our universe. And that universe, the time flows backward relative to ours, you know, and the bridge with it is an Einstein-Rosen bridge. You know, when you look at the structure of a Schwarzschild black hole, you see the mirror universe in the geometry. The also, if you look at Penrose diagrams of space-time, you also can see that mirror universe where it is. Of course, singularities do not allow us to cross into that mirror universe, and I suppose if we were able to do it, the fact that we are made of matter and they are made of antimatter would not be so good. We would annihilate into pure energy. Yeah. So, yeah, this is the stuff that I guess if I were to present it correctly with supporting logic and mathematical framework, someone else might actually take it seriously, and maybe I could be supported financially for my thoughts on these subjects. As it turns out, I have to work for a wage to live. You know, wage slavery, patriarchal stuff, you know, I'm kind of stuck with that for the moment. But maybe the quantum field will create a solution for that. Yeah. So I'll keep daydreaming. I will work on trying to get some of this written down and shared. I do much better with speaking than I do with writing. So I guess what I'm doing right now is kind of documenting this. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thanks for listening to me, especially if you made it this far in the video. Please do like my video, subscribe. I'm 199 subscribers. Just one more, and we'll be at 200. Definitely comment, because a big part of why I have this channel is to make connections with other people who think along these lines also. Yeah. All right. I'm out.